It's the same old story. It's been a long day at the job, or maybe it's just starting to feel long, and you feel that urge to stretch your legs and get a little bit of a break. You walk down the street, or maybe you get behind the wheel of your car, and you feel the weight begin to lift. You walk through the doors, and the sound of the place starts to clear the air. You get a table, you order your drink, you listen to the sounds of the bar, and soak in the conversation. Welcome to the TNE Speakeasy with your hosts, Caleb and Isaac. Listen in as I discuss the 2023 film, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, those in between and unaffiliated. Welcome to the Novice Leaders do a riff on how we felt about Geekvolution can sue us if they wish to.
Yeah, I'm assuming that I'm going to put this under the bonus series.
Oh, this is a speakeasy, well, you know that, but this
Yeah.
is literally like in the vein of how we felt about, because tonight, literally like just an hour and a bit ago, Caleb and I got done watching the most recent Transformers film, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts.
Yeah, this is impromptu. That's why there's no Eric here. Yeah, we just decided. Because we were going to try to have a parking lot discussion with these little mics that I bought years ago, but I didn't bring them today. So
Instead, we're trying to do it a little more. I can't. I don't say professionally, but at least with our preferred equipment. There we go.
yeah, and how's your board looking if we're doing the Geekvolution style? What do we got for you?
Okay. So this movie, so if for those who don't remember, they have a board that basically goes like how we felt about it. It's like, and this movie made me feel like X or whatever. We have a sign that'll say like I'm feeling it or I'm not feeling it for it, and then we'll have a best thing and a worst thing about the film. So I'll go first. This movie, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, made me feel like I wanted to go back to Transformers Cybertron and look up the name of the planet the Beast Transformers were from, or what was called, excuse me.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yes. Caleb, what's your sign say?
I didn't prepare this one beforehand, so I'm just quickly trying to think of something. But I'll say what my immediate feeling was after it, if that fits. I'll say this movie made me feel like any hope that I had for this franchise post Bumblebee was it was fool's gold. I feel like I was scammed into thinking that they were going to go in a different direction. Because this is Michael Bay light, and Michael Bay light is still better than Michael Bay. But oh boy, this did not in any way serve me as an audience. I liked maybe the first 40 minutes. First 40 minutes, I was like, okay, maybe this is the setup stuff, and maybe we'll get to more feeling like this is about characters and more feeling like they were trying to be more similar to the Bumblebee style. But no, this is really just kind of a repaint on the Michael Bay stuff, and oh boy. But I will say off the bat, are we going to try to do non-spoilers for the first 10 minutes or so? Or
Of course. Yeah, no, this time
Sure.
I'm aware of that. So there will be spoilers, and Caleb will provide a certain spoiler tag, an audio cue for those to understand when we're going to approach that. But
yeah, and just I'll say for anyone who's listened to one of our other recent movie discussions, was it? I can't remember which one we did where I put in the Avatar spoiler section.
which, thank you so much for that. That was awesome. I believe that was one that we saw recently.
Oh, Fast X.
Fast X. There we go.
Yeah, if anyone has heard that and is curious where that comes from, that's from our other podcast, Bending the Elements, where we talk about Avatar: Last Airbender. I think for this one, I'll use the theme from our first spoiler section. Maybe I'll do that just for fun.
Okay, the first book from book one. Okay.
Yeah, book one.
So let's go with our, just because before we get ahead of ourselves, let's do our best thing and our worst thing. So my best thing, what was it now? I had two of them. I know the first one. I can't remember what the second one was. Probably yell it out when I keep thinking about this. It's already starting to leave my mind. That's not good.
Yes, mine too.
But
Huh.
maybe that's a good thing. My best thing is when Optimus Primal said
Oh,
Maximals transform or whatever it was, or maximize, and then they
maximize.
transformed. That was my like just as a fan of Beast Wars or Beasties. That was really that was a nostalgia thing. So maybe that's not intellectual and to the movie itself, but just it made me want to go back and watch Beast Wars.
I don't think I heard any of the bad guys saying terrorize. So,
They did not. No, that's true. Caleb, what's your best thing?
uh,
Not the credits.
I would say my best thing is most of the score. There was a number of points in this with the score that just pissed me off, especially a certain moment with Bumblebee that just made me just want to get up and leave the theater. I was just like, oh, I'm so fucking done. But there was a lot of really solid '90s hip hop in there that I quite liked, and some late '80s hip hop. So yeah, I could get into that.
I'll say I'll say his again. Licensed music, not so much the score itself, because the score is there, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah, soundtrack, not score. Yeah, this Jablowski guy. I know people like him, but his scores for Transformers generic and bland and wallpaper and just yeah, I don't
Oh,
know.
him. He was. It was somebody else. He produced. He helped supervise. I don't know if you saw it, but like he
Oh,
was under like supervisor
that's
of
right.
composing
It,
supervisor, whatever that means.
it said music produced by. I was like,
Yep.
that's weird. But yeah, no, I just yeah. That's what I got. I could definitely enjoy some of the music.
It's weird. I actually want to defend Steve for some reason because I did at least like his score from, or at least generally am okay with his score from '07. But that's just me.
Yeah, and I'll say again, I mentioned the feeling like I was, sold a bill of goods that I was not expecting to receive. I'm not saying the Bumblebee was a great movie. By the way, did you watch that?
Nope, still haven't yet, which is kind of funny. I don't know if there's any spoilers to that, but
No.
what was there anything at all that like I missed last film?
Um. Well, nothing that leads into this, or at least not much. And you did leave to go to the washroom at a certain point in the movie, and I actually thought it was for a reason that I'll mention in a minute. But that was when you left was the only time they made reference to Bumblebee the movie.
Ah, okay, fair enough. And by the way, everybody, we are still going to be doing our Bumblebee commentary. Like we're still seeing this through. Don't worry about that. Like that's so. I'm obviously going to ask them for spoilers. I just wondered if like they had anything. So I actually left at the appropriate moment. So like, wow, that was a good thing.
Yeah, and it was only Optimus was going off about how he doesn't trust or like humans, and Bumblebee stepped in and was like, "Hey, these are our friends." And he's like, "You may have a human that's treated you well, but the rest of us, we don't know about these guys." So that was really it.
Yeah, fair enough. Like that's not a spoiler for Bumble because like
No.
the whole like girl with her car is like those were in the trailers in Bumblebee, so that's not a spoil.
And by the way, I will give a mild spoiler for my opinion on that Bumblebee movie. One of the things I liked the least about it was just the look of Bumblebee. I still think that these designs are much better than the Michael Bay era stuff, but I just think he looks so much like a toy, like he was just designed for to sell a toy, that I just find him obnoxious looking. He makes he when I look at him, I think of Porgs. That same thing. That's like this just feels like it was designed to make people go, "Oh, look how cute he is." But that's a side point. I don't want to get. Well, actually, I guess since mentioning the Transformers designs, what were you thinking with this one right off the bat with that stuff?
Now, hang on, we haven't done our worst thing yet. Let's
Oh,
just quickly,
okay,
let's just quickly. Yeah,
sure.
don't worry. That might be part of your worst thing, but worst thing for me. Oh boy, where to even start?
Oh wait, what was your best thing again? Sorry.
My best thing was when Optimus Primal said "Maximals maximize"
Oh yes.
out
Mm,
of nostalgia.
sure.
But worst thing. I actually don't know if I have a worst thing of like I'll try not to. I don't want to be petty. Like I know it'd probably be very easy to be petty with this film, but like I want to. Problem is that I have to give this film a chance. Like every film deserves to like have a chance. You can analyze it or whatnot, but like I can't just. I'm gonna try to refrain from like taking a dump on it as much as I can.
Well, while you're thinking about that, I'm just curious. Coming into this, were you coming in with your arms crossed, or?
You probably looked over and saw my arms crossed.
Yeah, and I did, by the way, just for the odds, I did see him checking his phone throughout the movie, and I'm assuming that you were checking the time just because you wanted to get out of the theater.
I was checking the time. You are correct, and I tried to make sure it wasn't in anybody's like any person behind me's eyes, because that is pretty incredulously rude, and I wouldn't. I do not like that practice, and so I will kind of call myself a hypocrite for that. So apologies, but yeah, I was. You can kind of tell I was what my sign flip is going to be. I don't want to. I could give an easy one. I'm not going to do it, but I'll at least just say like it is a repeat of. I'm not talking. It's like we're going to find an artifact. It's not that, but it's
Mhm.
like it does repeat previous Transformers, um, Michael Bay film, excuse me, plots. So like this is more an observation. I'll say where it's again, you know, last night bringing Cybertron to Earth, and that was also the plot from Dark of the Moon. So
Hmm.
we're once again bringing like a force to Earth.
Is that spoilers, do you think?
I don't. Maybe it is, but like I didn't say like what it was.
Sure,
I at least gave a general like there. It's a similar plot to, so maybe that is kind of minor spoilers, but I didn't say like what presence that might be.
sure.
I guess for my negative, I'll go with. Actually, I'll give another like one of my likes is that I liked that the between the two human characters, it was mostly platonic until potentially the end, or at least I don't know if it's platonic, but they didn't initially, like, they didn't just go for like a romantic twist,
Hmm.
not twist, but they didn't go with the romantic angle of like having the two leads love each other. I think they're leaving that open for later down the line for another installment. So it's like, okay, now we can like develop these two as a in a romance if we went that way, rather than like in the first Transformers where Sam and Michaela, they're supposed to be together forever, and then three happens.
Huh.
I guess I will say my worst thing is I wish Scourge had more character to him rather than just being a pawn of a certain person.
Oh yeah, generic villain. And I mean that could be. I feel like I have so many worse things, but one of the worst is feeling like the Transformers are once again, even though they get arguably the most screen time they've had in these movies, they still feel mostly generic. And the villains, yeah, terribly generic. There was even a whole bunch of Transformers in this that I feel like they were like soulless drones. And I was like, I didn't realize that Transformers could be just soulless drones like this, but a bunch of them seemed like that's what they were. And so I was like, okay,
Mass produced off the
yeah.
assembly line.
Couldn't find something that I'm less interested in than just completely characterless drones in the Transformers. That's just But I would say if I'm gonna pick a worst thing, well, actually, my number one worst thing is a spoiler. So I'll just say that the fact that this is once again a movie that is almost entirely about a dull plot, and the characters take such a back seat that they feel almost non-existent. I mean, they try. They give a little bit of a bonding between Optimus Prime and this new lead, and I guess with Mirage as well. But it feels like the more important ones with Optimus and him learning to respect Optimus and Optimus learning to respect him. It's like, okay, that's there, but I just could not give a damn about this next artifact plot. That stuff just was really boring to me in the theater. Did you feel similar way with that stuff? I don't know. Maybe I'm just so done with this formula with these movies, but
So it sounds like it's a been here, done that plot of like, okay, here we go again. And then I had to think to myself, okay, I gotta like understand that there's a lot of like other media behind this, but of course I have to. Yeah, adaptation, it's can stand on its own. Doesn't mean that anything before infers and or not reference, but makes sense of it. Not makes sense of it, but informs it. There we go. I'm because that would just be me like saying, well, hang on, in Transformers Cybertron, Scourge was this character or something like that. It's like, no, this is a new this is new plot, so I can't do that. However, I was also thinking back to a lot of similar plots of Transformers media, mostly on television, may have also had an episode or two have this kind of plot. Except that was an episode of television and it was only 24 minutes.
Yeah, and that is one thing I'll say about this is even though it's one of the shorter Transformers movies, which I appreciate, it still felt long. It still felt like this plot and was just stretched, and they had to give us like another half an hour long end action scene. I don't know if it was fully that long, but it felt like it was that long, and it was I was getting real bored, and I was internally checking the clock. I wasn't. I was trying to give the movie my full attention, but I was definitely just like, okay, I just want to get out of this theater now.
I did not give the movie the benefit of the doubt, even though I'm trying to come here as being as like civil as I can be.
And by the way, I will say, we were sitting in front of a family with two kids, and I could just feel the boredom from these two kids too. They were talking throughout pretty much the entire movie, and near the last little bit, they weren't talking as much, but they were fidgeting in their seats, and they were fidgeting with their seats at that time. I don't know if that was bothering you because they were more in front of you than me, but yeah, they didn't seem fully engaged with the movie.
Yeah, I can't throw them under the bus. Diplomatic, that's the word. I come to this speakeasy how he felt about very diplomatic, and it's like, but if you saw me in the theater, it's like I was not diplomatic with this film. But yeah, no, the kids are kids. Like I get it. Like I wouldn't behave that way as a kid. I mean, as far as I'm aware, I didn't, from my memories of being, in theaters. Um, but they're kids, they're kind of animated. I kind of get it with red letter media where they're just like, this is the reason why I don't want to go see movies in theaters anymore. It's like this has not soured my theater going experience. I'm all right with it. It just happened to be another showing, and for all I could have done, I could have just like moved another seat over, but I was so fixated on sitting in that same seat. I guess that's why you sat the seat afterward, or the seat next to me, eh?
Well, I guess so.
Okay. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Where darn it, where are we going?
Um, I wanted to touch on before we move out of spoilers, because they sold this movie on the fact that it is we're finally getting a chance to look at the Beast Wars side of the universe. Do you feel like that stuff brought anything new or brought anything unique to this movie that made this one stand out, or do you feel like it would please someone who was a fan of that television program?
Well, you're asking one.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say it's, I'm not going to say a fan's dream come true, but it is interesting from my perspective that I got to see in the show. I won't spoil too much for the show, but like in the show, they do um, mention, or there is a part where Optimus Primal interacts with Optimus Prime. This time, it's actually like they have full interactions. Like they're well, in fact, it's the whole like lesson of the movie where maybe minor spoilers, but like it's this whole part of this movie's story, or at least the plot with Optimus, is that he's learning to be a better leader and working in tandem with the humans in a symbiotic relationship.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
In a way, I'm happy to see these two characters interact. It's not really what I would have liked to see, but again, it's an adaptation. I'm bringing my own projections into this. I should not be doing that, but that's just what they went with.
Yeah, and I'll say I recently started watching some of that program just in lead up for this, just to get a flavor. And I've been trying, if we're gonna do this Transformers stuff, I feel like I need to do some due diligence with the source material, because just with the movies it sells, I like despise this franchise. I just think they're just all so terrible. But from what I've seen of the TV shows, it does seem like they're better. And I did watch the first two episodes, and half of the third. And this Beast Wars show does seem interesting. And I will say, just from having watched those few episodes and then seeing the representations in this movie, some of them work better than others, but I especially don't like the Optimus Primal look. Something about the way that they incorporate the fur with the metal, and it just looks weird to me. I just find it a little off-putting. I think the what was the name of the bird one again?
Wind Razor, Wind
Windrazor,
Razor, or Air Razor. Sorry, Air Razor.
Air Razor. That one looked cool. I liked that how they realized that in this movie, but But yeah, not. I didn't think that they looked very good.
It's probably what I would have expected from them. I mean, let's just. All right, I'll just get it off the table. CG has certainly come a long way from when Peace Wars first came out.
Oh, yes.
But again, maybe this doesn't have like that distinction. But one of the first, I mean, Reboot was the first, but same company. They were the first to like have one, or they were one of the first CGI television shows ever.
Hmm.
Not that that is saying much, but still, anyways.
Yeah, and I'll just briefly on the series. If anyone's interested in seeing it in the best form it's ever going to look, probably you can find it all 4K upscaled. It's not proper HDR or anything like that, but you can find it just for free on YouTube in incredible quality. So for what it is, a show from that time period, I think it looks reasonably solid in this new upgrade that's out there. So check that out if you're a fan on YouTube.
Yeah. How much more before you'd like to get into Spoilerville?
Just before we get there, I wanted to comment on the look of the Transformers this time around, just across the board. I like the fact that they've gone back to a more blocky aesthetic with most of them, and that they're trying to be a little bit closer to the animated kind of look and move away from the tons and tons of moving parts stuff of the Michael Bay ones, especially early on. But I don't know if there's something about their faces that I just find really off-putting in this movie, especially for RC. Is that her name again?
Or C.
Yeah, something about her face I just found kind of creepy looking. I was always like, ooh, I just don't really want to see her. Even though I liked her in the movie somewhat. Um, but yeah, how did you feel about the designs? I'm sure you care about that stuff more than I do.
I so with the Maximals, if I may say so, I'm happy with maybe not happy, but I'll at least say I'll give maybe not I liked it personally, but I think it was a thumbs up for
Hmm.
the designs. I think it was a cool idea. My actually one of my dislikes if they hadn't done it was the beasts or the Maximals never transform. So I was like, oh come on, why do they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then of course at the end they finally transform. I'm like, yes, thank goodness.
Yeah,
Um,
I had the same response.
I'm not saying like again. I think I accept the look of them, their animal forms. I like, yeah, I'm okay with the fur. It's probably like because with like Transformers Cybertron, for instance, they literally like they were CGI characters and they just based them off the actual like models. Obviously, they had more freedoms. They could move around more and gesture. But in this, it's probably the best depiction of it. Um, anyways, but yeah, as for the Autobots, it's a harken back to G1. It's a lot closer for people in G1. Don't worry, it's not like I'm saying, but I don't like G. No, I do like some of G1's designs. I think Transformers Animated does a very good job of bringing those ideas back and then making each character look a lot more unique while still being faithful to the designs from G1. But anyways, yeah, I was. I'll just say I'm not. I was not feeling some of the facial designs for each of the characters, and even some of the sizes of each other. Actually no. Maybe some of the size between like Mirage, Bumblebee, and the humans. I think that's probably a harken back to G1. So I guess that makes sense. But yeah,
Hmm.
with Optimus Prime's face, whenever
Oh,
his face guard was not up, I was not feeling it. I was like, I don't know about that. Like, I mean, it's well animated. I can't say like there's any like bad animation in this film. You can obviously, bring your opinion, but like, I don't think there's any like bad animation. Maybe just like not fully realized or just not well designed. I don't know.
I would say not well designed. I kept every time Optimus Prime would talk again, like you said, without his face guard thing on. I kept just imagining an old man who took his dentures out and he's talking and his mouth is kind of like a little bit fallen in, you know? That's what I kept just seeing every time. And something about his eyes I found creepy too. They were almost like they were dead, piercing eyes. I was just like, no, I don't like that.
The worst thing I could say about the designs is that I'd rather go back to '07. And I mean, like,
Oh
shocker of
wow.
shocks, but it's like, yeah, I mean, a lot of you could at least, yeah, in this one you could tell the difference between all the Transformers, and it was
Mm-hmm.
mostly like bright daylight out. Like there was a scene at night that had the Transformer, but that was fine. I'm like, it's fine because we saw them in the daytime as well, so I can accept like night shots because the story just needed to be set at night, so I can accept that. But I think the animators have no problems with animating the characters in the day or the night, excuse me. But I will say that I think the I don't know what it was, what like unholy magic was used for '07, but I honestly think like '07 still looks the best in terms of like integration. I know I just said there's no bad animation, but that doesn't mean like I can still tell I'm looking at CGI on screen. But like whatever, like I said, whatever they did with '07, it's like that's the best looking one of the bunch for integration. I mean,
Hmm. Yeah, no, that could very well be fair. Yeah, it definitely. It's still wow. It's going back to it now. It's not like you go back and like, oh, it looked great for its time. I still think it looks great.
You know why? I think because they had never tried it before. Like this would be the first. I mean, okay, obviously we were doing dinosaurs, CGI dinosaurs on screen. Up to that point with Jurassic Park. But I'm thinking like because they like had no idea of how it was going to look. They spent I don't know so much time, but they spent a lot of time trying to integrate them well, and that's why like once it became standardized, it was like all right, we know how to do this. And so I don't want to throw all the animators out there for saying they didn't put much effort into it, but I think they didn't have to worry as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely not.
Again, be speculating on what may have been. It may like I could be completely incorrect.
And the only last thing I want to say before I jump into spoilers is we get a moderate amount of different Transformers in this one. Not as much as say last night, but I kept wondering because I always got the impression that Transformers are unique. If you see one type of Transformer, you're not necessarily going to find another type that's the same. I just get the impression that they're unique. So the fact that we saw, I don't know, like 3 or 4 Scorponok type Transformers in this, I was like, is that the usual thing? Is it just like a standard make? That's not really what I thought these things were. How do you respond to that?
I guess I'll say with like for instance going back to another piece of Transformers media. I know I shouldn't be comparing, but like for instance in Transformers Energon, there is actually it's kind of funny. There is another faction, or there's a I guess yeah, there's a faction of drones in a way called Terracons, and it consists of these drone-like swarm of Transformers that go around and basically harvest energon. And this is in the show, not the movie. They go around and they harvest energon and go back to was it Alpha Q, or Alpha Q's within the desecrated body, or the deceased body of Unicron. They're trying to like revive Unicron with energon. So in a way they are almost like the spawn of Unicron. So that's kind of what I mean. I'm probably getting there, but like you can almost see like there's where my parallels were. It was like, oh, huh, so we're going back to this, huh? Well, at least that's again, this is from my memory, excuse me.
Yeah, I feel like we've come to the end of the non-spoiler section. So yeah, meet us on the other side.
Well, let's end it with a want to flip our signs.
My sign is strong, not feeling it.
Um,
Not recommend.
yeah, yeah, I'm with him as well. Everything he said, I am a strong not feeling it, even though I sound very like an arbiter, or at least I even not sound apologetic, but it's like I could yell and scream, but I'd rather try to at least save face and be a little bit more diplomatic.
And who could care at this point with this series enough to be upset about it? I mean, the ruination of this happened a decade ago or more. So. This section of the podcast contains spoilers for all seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. Enter at your peril.
and Nemesis Prime. You are nothing.
Well, it's not only tracing trends, but trying to get something started off in a way of, trying to revive a whole franchise.
Yeah, and we gave it our money.
If you know what I
We gave it
mean.
our money back.
I know, I don't mean that. I mean, do you like the little GI Joe insert at the end?
That was crazy. By the time we got there, I was slumped in my seat. You may have seen me start just.
I noticed. I noticed.
I was getting antsy. I was like, okay, let's end this thing. Let's end this thing. And then once I finally saw that, I was just like, okay, this, do whatever you want. Just throw whatever you want. They could bring out Howard the Duck, and I just throw my hands up like, okay, there's Howard. He's in this now. He's gonna be the hero for the next one. So GI Joe, sure. Snake Eyes was a failure for starting off a franchise. Why not just integrate with this?
To those keeping track, I still have yet to see Snake Eyes, even though I said a few podcasts ago that I want to go watch it. I think it was during the Hobbs and Shaw podcast. I still want to, but
Oh
I'm
yeah.
assuming that the guy, the interviewer at the end, from whatever show he's on, I think he's on Jack Ryan as well. But I assume he was part of that movie. But
Oh.
my initial impression of what he was being, or the protagonist was being interviewed for, um, was Sector 7. I'm like, are they
Mm.
still gonna keep Bay's continuity in line, or no? Because I was like, yeah, we're organization, like, obviously when he said like dealing with like the world and such, I was like, I don't know if that's what Sector 7 was, but okay, sure, maybe it's an adaptation change. And now it's GI Joe. It's like, huh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what's there to? I mean, how can anyone get excited about
So
that?
who's he in the Snake Eye? I'll have to look for that when I watch Snake Eyes.
Huh. Yeah, he might be in there. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, and they did make this very clear because with Bumblebee, it was always treated as kind of a soft prequel. It's like, yeah, no, this leads into the Michael Bay stuff, but we're not doing anything too tight. It's a separated prequel. But with this one, they were like, no, no, we're wiping the slate clean and we're doing just a straight reboot now. So now that other one is retroactively the first part of this new series. So
I mean, at least in the shows they had the decency of like changing the name, or at least adding a subtitle to it. So for instance, Transformers Armada, Transformers Energon, Transformers Cybertron. To be fair, those three are like part of a trilogy. And then there's Transformers Animated, Transformers
Beast Wars.
Robots in the Sky, Beast Wars. Actually, no, that was just titled Beast Wars, not Transformers. Even though it was the same thing, but it was like maybe in some maybe in some countries it was called that, but I assume that they probably called it on the YouTube channel.
It says Beast Wars Transformers. That's what it says on the YouTube one.
Okay, well, when I was watching it back in the day, it was not Beast Wars Transformers. It was just Beast Wars, or excuse me, Beasties.
Beasties. That's terrible.
I'm pretty sure, as Gary Chalk, the voice for Optimus Primal, said in an interview once, it's because you can't say wars in Canada. And I'm like, but we get away with a lot of other stuff up here than what America does with censorship. So it's like, what the hey is going on here?
Yeah, they could just be more protective with kids programming. Sometimes things get weird about that stuff.
And yet we had Cyber 6, but oh well.
But yeah. Oh boy.
So Unicron's no longer a planet. I mean, okay, sorry, he is, but he's no longer Earth. So they dropped that whole Orsi and Kurtzman idea from last night. Well, okay, sorry, that was from Prime, but you know what I mean, right? Like that's no longer.
Yeah.
So this is yeah. So I have a feeling like the next film is gonna be like we're gonna get rid of the group. Like we're gonna get rid of these two characters, like the two human characters, and just start anew. So it's just like nope, like forget you guys, and Transformers will go into they'll find a new group of humans.
I would be more than happy to see them not come back. I'm not going to say that I hated them. I'm not going to say that they were as bad as the Michael Bay, Sam Witwicky family or anything like that. But they were so bland, so bland. The lady, I can't remember what her name was, and we just watched it.
Elena.
Elena. She felt like she was plot mover, or what do you call those kind of characters? Just
Not a MacGuffin, but Yeah, just utilitarian. Like, well, that was this whole
Yes.
film. Is that it, characters did not feel like characters in a way. Like they obviously try
Yeah.
to get, but so okay. There's a lot that we have to talk about. I don't know if we'll get to it all, but like let me first state that yeah, I was very antsy through this film and was not feeling this film from the beginning. Like I think 10 minutes in, I was like, I want to walk out. Like I actually there's like I can name a few films like in one hand of which I've wanted to walk out of.
Yeah.
Obviously, the last film being Halloween 40, um, but like when I everybody, if anybody listened to our Avatar Way of Water, I'm not going to, put myself on a pedestal or anything like that. I'm just going to lay it down saying that I sat through that entire 3.5 hour movie holding in the urge to go to the bathroom. Okay, I
Mm.
literally like waited till like there was no like after the credits and then went to the bathroom. Okay, throughout this film, I was like, right when they were gonna do the museum heist, I was like, all right, I kind of figure what's gonna happen. They convince him, and then like just hilarity ensues, and then they'll get there. I was actually surprised we hadn't gotten to that scene just yet, but like, it just happened like right when I came back. So I'm like, okay, interesting.
And I actually thought that you were getting up in protest and pretending to walk out, because you're a type who would do that kind of thing.
Thank you.
And I thought you were getting up in outrage at the Marky Mark line when they're like, "Oh, did you hear Marky Mark's getting out of acting or getting out of music? He's going into acting now." Oh, and I thought you were just like, "Nope, no, I'm not having this. I'm out."
That is quite a coincidence, but it's also funny because like I mean I didn't walk out when John Cena talked about Marky Mark in Fast X.
Yeah, at least he hadn't starred in one of the Fast and Furious movies.
Which is kind of weird though, because we talk about Marky Mark and he was, the protagonist at one point in this franchise.
That's why I thought you were getting up in outrage. You're like, this is too self-aware. I'm out of here.
Well, now that you say that, I should have done that. But no, it literally was because my bladder was full and I wanted to, empty it. So I was like, you know what? I probably didn't miss much. Did I miss anything at all?
Mm, you missed the arrival of the
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
what are these guys? Are these Terracons?
Terracons. Oh,
Yeah.
I have a better one. This is a little more probably petty. My worst thing is that the Terracons don't turn into animals because in
Yes.
the original show Beast Wars they did turn into other animals. Like so, if Maximals look a lot more yeah a lot more friendly, or at least they look more, when I say pleasing to that, they look a lot more symmetrical, I guess you could say. They look a lot more less menacing. They look like, I'm not gonna say benign or anything like that. Like a gorilla can kill you, a cheetah can kill you, like they all can kill you, but for the most part they all looked more like docile. Again, cheetah obviously notwithstanding, but like they looked more gentle. Terracons were supposed to invoke like terror, literally. So like Megatron was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. We had Scorponok as a scorpion. We had Inferno as an ant. We had Waspinator as like a wasp. Giant ant, by the way. These weren't mini cons. They were like about roughly humans, not human, but they were roughly Transformers. Actually, they were. Actually, now I think about it, they probably were about human size in a way. Obviously, a little bit taller, but still. And you had no, who else was there? Oh yeah, Pterosaur, who was a pterodactyl. Things that looked like they could evoke fear in somebody. And like for instance, Tarantulas, I think that was his name. He turned into a giant tarantula. So
Hmm.
again, they evoke something that is uncomfortable, or at least terrifying. So a good way of like separating the two when you're dealing with like animals. Like I guess you could say like prey animals and predator, but that's not even the case because gorillas can be predators. Anyways,
Now with Rat Trap.
not with Rat Trap.
Oh, I was waiting. I was waiting for Rat Trap to show up in a cameo role.
I mean that and Dinobot, and I was like, oh come on, what the hey?
Yeah, it was Dinobot like a Starscream stand-in. It sounded like the same voice in Beast Wars.
Really?
Yeah, at least to me, it sounded
No,
like it.
him and Rat Trap have the same voice.
Oh wow. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew that, but they had the same voice actor.
Oh, that's interesting. But that'd be the Howard the Duck to just show up at the end and be like, "Hey, I'm taking over the troop now. This Optimus Prime, it seems like he sucks. Let me show you how it's done."
Well, okay, it's funny because Starscream's soul does actually end up in one of the shows up in Beast Wars.
Oh,
He possesses Pterosaur, so it's kind of funny. You say that.
but where else to go? I'll go to my worst thing, which was the supposed death. At first, I thought it was the death of Mirage, and then the
Mirage. Well, okay, yes, but there was the other guy as well.
what other guy?
Bumblebee.
Oh yeah, but this talking about my worst thing.
Okay.
I don't care. I could not give a damn about Bumblebee. I strongly dislike this character in these movies.
Like I said, I actually prefer the Bay '07 version than this one. Just like design wise, I'm like I'll take '07 over this.
Yeah, this oh fuck this character. They had a moment in this where they used the Roddy Piper line from They Live, but they edited it and just I was just like, well, what the fuck this. Take that line from anywhere else. Why would you just take a great moment from a great movie and then just trim it down to just be nothing?
And it's so weird because they you think they like I've come to like they just say I've come to chew bubblegum and kick and then they like censor. No, they just said like I've come to kick ass. Pardon my language, but it's just like what? Like where's the bubblegum part? And or the
Yeah.
whole like and I'm all out of gum. Like come on, man.
Yeah, just it's like that's something that bothers me about this. It's constantly remixing, just taking things out of context. I just find that gimmick just so tiring. Maybe it was fine in that first movie, but how long could they possibly keep this going? It's just so tiresome.
And it's not only that; it's like, are they going to start using TikToks or Vines or something
Uh,
like that with it? Well, I can't. They can't because it's '94. So they missed their chance because now they're going to go back to.
and when they killed Bumblebee in this, I was internally cheering. I was like, okay, wow, they're taking some bold choices. Now they're very firmly saying this isn't connected to Michael Bay. They're killing off a iconic character that's become super tired. That they're probably annoyed with having to constantly find ways to find all that dialogue for him. So they're just getting rid of him. I was glad. And then once they put it out there that there was a chance they could save him, I was like, oh fuck, he's coming back. And then when he did come back, oh boy, they treated this big heroic moment. They played this song. I can't remember what it is now, even though we just watched it and I do know the song. But I was like, oh, he does not deserve this moment. Just screw this. And I was just so done.
First, I thought it was Kickstart My Heart, but I'm like, no, it wasn't. Was it Salt and Pepper? No, it wasn't. Either way, I was like, like bobbing my head up and down to the song, but like, see, here's the problem. It had a similar thing with Fast and Furious, but it's the opposite. Where, see, they brought Bumblebee's body around, or brought body with him, and I'm like, no, he's fine. Like he'll
Hmm.
be he'll. There's no way they have like the gall to do that because another thing I also noticed is that okay, well, one, Optimus Prime is still in character of being like a blood knight, and two, there's a lot less like Transformers blood in this, and I'm like, I kind of miss that. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just so like numb to this series that I'm like I kind of want to see the blood now. But they so once he like killed Scourge, I'm like, I kind of wanted to see him bleed out, but it's like nope, nothing at all. So I'm like, whoa, this feels weird.
Yeah, it feels like they're trying to go back to be family friendly. Because Michael Bay, those last two, it really did feel like he was like, I just want brutality. But to get back to what I was saying about my worst moment, so we think that Mirage is dead, or at least I did. I don't know if you knew that he was going to come back, but what I thought that they were doing was I thought that they were taking a note from the Predator, and they're like, okay, we've got a human character that humans have to be pivotal in these Transformers movies. What if we give a human the corpse of a transformer that he can wear and he can be the transformer inside of it? That's what I thought they were doing. And once we see him in his little transformer suit and he's this tiny little bug getting into the fight and he looks so stupid in that suit, I just thought that was just awful. I was like, oh my god, these humans don't have a place in this fight. Get him out of that corpse of a transformer and just
So My best thing about that is that I was shocked to see some of the movements he was doing where he was like sliding on the ground and like jet propulsing forward. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but I'm actually getting like a live action version of Vanquish, the suit,
Oh,
the arc suit from Vanquish.
I was just about to say that. I was waiting for you to finish talking to be like, oh yeah, I like that. It made me think of Vanquish.
Hey man, I played it, so
Me too.
nah man, I was kind of livid. I'm like, oh, he's sliding on the ground. He's like Sam from Vanquish. Let's go. I was so happy about it. Even RC, for some odd reason, her face looked like Bayonetta's to me. Another Platinum Games
Oh,
property. So I'm like, just with like when Bayonetta has her glasses. So I'm like, what the? Well, she always is wearing glasses. So it was kind of weird. Like, so I was like, huh, that's odd. But anyway, um, I was I was just like, yo, that's pretty cool. But then, like, the obvious thing of like, all right, well, I have to be careful with this because, like, I could obviously, like, I can think of Kicker from Energon again, to names. He didn't have a transformer on him, but he did always have like a cool, like, motocross suit with him. But then I was also thinking back to like, the original like Sparkplug Wiki. And if you remember in the '07 film, not sorry, not '07, in the '86 film, excuse me, um, he was he was wearing a suit of he was wearing like a technological suit,
hmm.
and so I thought that, and then like, um, Daniel was also wearing one in that movie, so I was like, okay, I mean, we technically have had humans in suits, as well. Obviously, they haven't been like a huge plot point to that sense, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I mean, this is kind of what some humans have done in the past, and I also think back to spoilers. Sorry, Sumdak from animated. So it's like, so humans getting empowered or somehow donning something to be empowered to somehow fight alongside the Transformers is a thing that we have done in the past.
Hmm.
But at the same time, yeah, it looked ridiculous.
Yeah, it just, oh boy. And again, I thought that they killed off a transformer that I thought was gonna be the new Bumblebee. I was like, okay, Mirage, he seems like he has more of a personality than Bumblebee, and him and this human seem like they're getting along. And I was like, wow, they're really just killing him off just so this guy can inhabit his corpse. I thought that was kind of gross in some way.
And then they brought him back.
Then they brought him back, so that's okay.
He's fixed. Like, at the end, he just the protagonist, he fixes him. I'm like, can't be that easy, can it? And it's like, oh no, okay. I mean, albeit like with like parts, but even still, just brings him back. I'm like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, it makes him wonder, is the like, can you kill a transformer really, or could you always just take their intelligence out and put it into some other body? Or
See, it's the idea of the spark
mm,
in that, and again, depends on the continuity. So I again,
yeah,
I'm not gonna say it has to be this way. I'm just saying, like, for continuity, usually, like, they'll have an actual soul, the spark, and if you can transfer that over, actually, that's how we've in certain medias we've justified new toys sometimes, where it's like,
mm,
for instance, there was, I'll bring this up because this actually confused me, with Mirage. Um, Again, I maybe based off a G1 character, but I'm thinking of somebody else. For instance, in Transformers Armada, there was a character called Tidal Wave. Well, there was Tidal Wave, Cyclonus, and Demolisher. And in Energon, they still came back, but eventually they actually all got killed, and then their sparks got transferred out and put into a new body, and they were each like a different character altogether. So I mean, Demolisher was still Demolisher, but he's like 2.0. Cyclonus became Snowcat, and then Tidal Wave became Mirage,
oh, oh, okay, mm.
and that's a Decepticon. And I'm like, so Mirage is an Autobot this time? I thought he was a Decepticon, but again, different continuity. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. I mean, again, maybe I didn't look any of this up. By the way, I've chosen not to, but I didn't know if Mirage was, again, like I said, a G1 character or at least an Autobot or not. So I could be ignorant to that.
Well, but do you have anywhere else to go? I've been racking my brain trying to think of another track to go along, but it is hilarious how much just on the drive over alone that the movie started to drain out of my brain.
There you go.
I kept trying to hold on to things to talk about, but It's like a defense mechanism or something.
No, that's fair. You definitely got to bring those micro, that micro, those mini microphones. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And you're keeping your car again. So like we could do this immediately, like literally off the cuff. Is maybe as unprofessional as it sounds, but it's just like that way we can give our like literally like our initial thoughts to it. I've thought of another uh, worst thing, which is the Maximals don't get a lot of screen time. I'd say because in the beginning again you think that they're gonna get this the whole movie will be devoted to them, and then no, it's actually more of the Autobots than it is the Beast or the Maximals. Excuse me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I understand why they marketed the fact that this movie was going to feature them, but it feels like some false marketing a little bit. Kind of like Age of Extinction was false marketing. That one, it felt like, okay, yeah, you're just tricking people into thinking that they're getting what they want to get. This is a little bit of a rehash of that.
Again, it's I feel like they're trying to rebuild the whole series and start off with like, see, Optimus Prime, he's not so much of a great individual. Hopefully we're going to build to him being that father figure that he was from G1 and the Great One itself. Oh, I should have also maybe had a part of my sign where it's just like, this movie made me want to write a fan fiction about Optimus Primal being like on another planet inspired by Optimus. Anyway, I guess I liked Ron Perlman's performance as Optimus Primal. I mean, guy's an actor and a voice actor as well, so like I've never really heard him in any bad role.
The closest that I can think of is Alien Resurrection, but I don't know if I can fully blame him for that.
We're gonna put an asterisk on that one at least, because I mean, like, anyways,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and some other characters like they have some easy ways out as well. Like they bring out Stratosphere, which I have no idea if that's a transformer or not. But like we have Stratosphere, who's this kind of like Astro Train, I guess, where he's a bigger transformer who could transport. Uh, he's like a old World War II fighter plane. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking back to Last Night or Jetfire from
Oh,
Revenge of the Fallen, where it's just like yeah, another like older, but they don't do anything with him. He's just like he's like Appa. He's just the taxi driver.
I thought that was Jetfire. I was like, oh, is this a younger version of him?
I thought I was like, oh, it's Jetfire, and it's like, oh no, it's just Stratosphere. I'm like, I'm not familiar with this guy. Maybe there's
Oh,
somebody. Maybe
weird.
he's in the comics, but I've never encountered him before, so I'm not too sure. And then we also had, was it Downshift or was it Drift?
Which one?
Not Drift. The guy who shows up in Peru, the other Autobot who shows up in Peru,
Oh,
and
yeah,
the
yeah,
whole that's racist line.
the one with the glasses. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I don't remember the name of that one, but I was surprised that they took a moment to spotlight, like, hey, why do you have this accent? But they never pointed out the obvious answer for it, which I don't think they've ever done. But I feel like it's so easy to explain it. Just say, oh, this is where I landed, and I just, just copied the way people spoke there.
Yeah, like he's an Autobot and he has like radio stations. So and those
Yeah,
radio stations are probably playing Peruvian or whatever city they're in radio. So obviously all the shock jockeys or all the radio announcers or hosts are gonna probably be speaking Peruvian Spanish or whichever language they speak.
yeah, that would have been the perfect time to just explain that, because I've wondered this whole time, like why are these transform? Why did some of them like the one in Last Night in Age of Extinction that looked like a samurai or something? Like, why does he look like that? Is there a Japan on Cybertron? Like, they could so easily just explain this stuff, but they choose not to.
Yeah, that's actually funny because there was so we have Jetfire in Armada and Energon, and he sounds normal. He's the same actor as Dinobot and Rat Trap, by the way.
Hmm.
But so it's normal, right? And then in Cybertron, for some like I'm not gonna say weird reason, but like just for some reason they recast him and bring in an Australian actor, and he's just doing an Australian accent. It's like, what the hey happened here?
Oh, that is weird. It's like, we don't care.
It's funny because Scott McNeil, like the guy who voiced Jetfire, Dinobot, and Rat Trap, is also from Australia, um, but moved over here to Vancouver. So it's again, it's very weird. It's like what? But anyway, so it's like yeah, there's the answer there. But sorry, I forgot to mention what I was going to say is that like with Mirage, I was very confused by it being Mirage or Pete Davidson. I guess is a more appropriate term. That's not true. He was actually trying to be, a character this time rather than just being Pete. Hi, I'm Pete Davidson. I showed up in Fast X anyway. Sorry.
Oh yes, the same year. I didn't even think about that.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny because these movies are very similar, except I enjoy Fast X more.
God, oh God, yes.
Uh, anyway, so I thought Mirage because when we had the police chase, or when we had
Oh yeah.
Mirage answer the call, yeah, we'll talk about that. When we see Mirage answering the call, he has something playing in the background and has something about like jazz or something like that, and I'm like, oh, is it jazz?
Hmm.
And no, it's Mirage. I'm like, what? Oh, come on! Like, you had an opportunity to like make amends with that character from '07. It's like, oh man, we missed it. By the way, my big thing was, what if the next film is set in 2007?
Uh, I'm sure they'll get there eventually.
I kind of want it to be just to be like, yeah, we're doing that. All right. It's like, okay, fair enough.
But oh, what did I want to jump on? Oh, the police chase.
Not only the police station, but all like the human center. I mean, I guess the human sector stuff is only there to like develop, the human characters and introduce them.
Oh, and I just could not care. All the scenes with the little kid. I mean, no offense, little kid, but I want those scenes cut. I just feel like it just dragged all that stuff.
The kid was a good actor. I'll say that he was a good
Yeah.
actor. It's just like, yeah, the whole like subplot of all that. It's just like, yeah, we don't care. Like,
Yeah.
sure, you can make a comment that like look at this, like Hispanic Americans don't get a lot of like attention in the '90s. Like that is true. Like that is definitely true. But like, so we have to root for them. But it's just like I came to see a Transformers film. I mean, if they want to go with, you know, an analogy or a metaphor like that, then do that with Transformers. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, sorry, that may have sounded bad, but like, you know what I mean, right? Like,
Yeah. Let's move away from there. No, it didn't sound bad. I don't think, but
I feel like it did. It sounded insensitive to actual like what Hispanic Americans are having to deal with. Sorry, guys.
but when they do the scene when little kids like, oh, you're taking my brother to go on your mission here. Well, you better take care of him. I'm gonna come after you, and you have to deal with me. It's like, oh look, the kid's spunky. He's putting up airs that he could take on this transformer. That's great.
I also called the whole like I'm coming with you. I'm like called it.
Yeah.
Like it's very formulaic, and you can definitely like predict what's gonna happen next.
Yes, the whole movie is extremely formulaic in that way. Yeah. But when our lead ends up talking to his brother when Mirage is laying dead on top of him, or we think he's dead, and he's like, the brother has to bring his hopes back up because he's like, oh, I failed and the whole world's about to die and I'm just gonna lay here and do nothing, and the kid has to amp him up again. I was just groaning. I was like, oh man. And then when we get to the end and we get the stereotypical kind of last speech by Optimus Prime, and I was again groaning in my seat, like, oh, like of course this is so Michael Bay. We have to end it with a big epic speech from Optimus Prime. And then when they completely switch gears and now it's the main guy and he's introducing himself, my name's this, and I'm gonna be a hero in the next few films. I don't know if you noticed me laughing, but I was so shocked by that. I couldn't believe that they had so much faith in this character that they were giving him his own section in the end speech to introduce himself, and I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, they went there. Darn it, I had something else. I could not remember it now for life. Oh, I wonder if this is what we would have gotten. So it's '94, by the way. It took place in June '94, so you're about to be born, by the way.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I was only like 2 months away from being born. Or yeah, sorry, 3 months away from being born. So yeah, it's our year finally. But like, can I just say that I feel like the last film was in Bumblebee. It was set in the 80s, and that's when nostalgia was that 30-year cycle of nostalgia happened, and so it's now the 2020s, and um, we have the 90s resurgence coming back, and it's in effect. But I know it's 20 years, but hear me out on this one. I feel like they overdid it with all the references in the beginning.
Mm.
Like when we see him and his family in their apartment, I'm like, everything is 90s. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm ignorant to this, but like I don't feel like this is what everybody had back in the day. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know.
I didn't feel like that was too strong, but I was feeling some of that definitely.
I know some of the attire they were wearing were definitely 90s looking. Um, oh, what was I? Oh, I wonder if this is how the 90s or not 90s, but I wonder if this is how like if we did Sonic in the 90s, and I don't mean like made it in 90, but like if Sonic the Hedgehog from 2020 was set in the 90s, I wonder if this is a similar plot that would have happened, or at least what things would have looked like.
Hmm.
So do you think that, well, one, okay, so Elena, I'm happy she didn't get a bullet in her head.
Well, I guess, yeah.
Same name, different character, but two, this is pointless, but I like the fact that um, when she was having to in the end use her code or get her use her notebook and the clues that she uncovered and wrote down to stop the space bridge from opening up or reverse it, excuse me. Whenever she was having to deal with that mini con, I was like, oh, this feels like Lara Croft. This lady actually could, the actor could probably play Lara Croft.
Oh,
I mean
really?
that, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Just because she was doing like some jumps and whatnot, so I'm like, hey, it's Lara Croft.
Oh, I definitely don't see it,
Probably not, but I was
but
just like, at this point, I'll take anybody as Lara Croft. But just like now, which another Tomb Raider game at some point.
yes, absolutely, absolutely
Although,
agree there.
hopefully, it's what, I'm just gonna stop talking. I can't say anything right now.
And I'm trying to think of anything to say about this movie now.
Um,
I guess I liked the scene when the two of them finally came together when he met at the museum there, and then we had those weird spider guys. I didn't really like them. I those kind of Transformers, I just don't feel like they're very interesting. They just feel like they're not actually characters. They're again just like animal Transformers or something.
well, I
I
mean,
didn't necessarily like the design, but I thought that there was some suspense there, at least a little bit.
well, yeah, they really tried to lean into a horror aspect of the at least the suspense aspect of like, are they going to get caught? I'm like, of course not. They have their main characters. They have plot armor. It's fine. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're going to kill a human on screen. Like, well, like sure. I guess like earlier we saw like one of that security guard get blasted from like, so coming into the coming into the what is, oh yeah, coming into the back from the bathroom when they're inside and they're like having that little tussle, and then the Terracons come in. I thought Mirage or somebody like the Autobots double crossed them and shot into the museum, and I was like, what? Huh, that's a different, like, they're changing the script. Now it's just the Terracons. Like, okay, that makes more sense. Um, I guess what we haven't talked about. Well, okay, so here's the other thing with the with Elena and her being Lara Croft, because she was an archaeologist and like she did stuff in that underground temple. I'm like, she solved this stuff, so it's like, hey, she's like Lara Croft. That's where I was getting my basis from. But
Oh, okay.
I guess we forgot to say that, like, to make uh not only like we've previously said with the male human character protagonist, but we differentiate him even further than all the other Cade Yeager or Sam Witwicky, and give him some conflict in the way of he's going to destroy the MacGuffin. Instead of like every other single, like like I said, either Sam Wookie or Cade Yeager, where they're just like, okay, like we're just gonna go with this MacGuffin and this artifact. We're not gonna. We're just gonna give it to the Transformers. And that's it. It's like this time. It's like No, yeah, I'm gonna destroy this. So that's the spin they gave on this character.
Well, yeah, and yeah, I guess they well, I don't know. Do you think you like him more than Sam in that first movie?
I at this point, like, I'm just like, I don't know what to think anymore, man. I don't know what to feel.
Yes.
It's like that Simpsons line. It's like the Simpsons line of '90s characters. It's just like I don't know what to feel, man.
Yes.
It's just like, I, it's like Geek Pollution's Eric, where it's like these movies are an abusive spouse to him. It's like I mean, like, but I'm not saying I'm being abused, but like I don't know what I'm looking for a trans. At this point, I'd almost rather just go back and watch like. I'd rather just go and watch the new season or the new series on of Transformers on TV because like
Oh,
it's always been like better on TV if it's regardless of if it's been like great or not.
yeah, and I've said many times throughout this series that these movies, these are the types of movies that I just that are not for me in any way. I never feel like there's anything that would pull me to watch them. And yeah, no, I would absolutely much rather watch like a 10-hour TV series than sit through another one of these. But and I really was going in hopeful that they would give us something different, but no, it feels very, very much the same. Just minus all the terrible humor. That was the one saving grace compared to the Michael Bay stuff. Is I never felt bombarded by bad comedians doing their stick.
I mean, I guess like um, Pete Davidson was doing his shtick.
Yeah, but he didn't. He was just more doing like a lighthearted, like, oh, I'm a cool guy, let's be friends. He didn't feel like how Davidson usually feels in things. Like I feel like in Fast X, it was kind of Pete Davidson doing his type of comedy that he does. This felt different than that. I think. I think.
You make a point. Yeah, no, I guess yeah, he's actually like having to portray character the entire time.
Exactly. That's why I dislike those comedians in movies so much, is because they're so clearly not being a character. They're just being the bit that they play in SNL or some sort of stand-up comedy. Like they're just doing that exact performance. Just it's like, oh, it's that comedian in a movie. It's not a character, and I find that annoying most of the time. But I don't know. Is there anything else? I know that there must be, but I'm just. Uh,
I'm trying to think what could have been cut. I think honestly, if you had just removed the Maximals, they would have. There was like no reason. Well, are they pivotal? Like obviously they get the MacGuffin rolling.
yeah, and uh, I did like that opening on whatever planet they were on. I thought that was solid, and I liked the fact that we were opening a Transformers movie many years in the past, but not on Earth.
unlike unlike before.
I was like, okay, that's changing up the formula. Yeah, but otherwise, it really is amazing how much it just is a clone of those other Transformers. It's the formula is just so precise.
See, I think this might be okay. Yeah, I think okay. Hear me out with this one. So, I'll get to Unicron in a second, but let me say this here. So, Geek Evolution Eric talks about, or at least like him and Cap kind of talked about the idea of confusion amongst unaffiliated regular audience goers when it comes to let's say superhero films with continuity. So this is in a weird position because they want to separate from Michael Bay. Michael Bay and Steven Spielberg still have their names attached to this, but it's a separate continuity. Like they want it to be like a separate continuity. I think what they have to do is redesign the characters, and I mean like from the ground up.
Mm.
Because I mean, bringing in Bumblebee and only changing him slightly is, I think, a mistake. Um, I think the same thing with what's his name? I think with Optimus Prime as well. I think they'd have to like replace Peter Cullen to really make it. And that's the thing they did with, like, for instance, Armada, Energon, and Cybertron, is that they had a strict like they all use voice cast from Vancouver, and that separated from being like like it was a different generation. It was a different continuity from like G1 or Beast Wars. Now Beast Wars still had that Vancouver cast, but like it was a different so it's kind of funny how I could almost mix up Beast Wars and then like the Unicron trilogy, but like no, those are two separate continuities. Um so like we have G1 with a different like with different character designs and voices, and then like the Unicron trilogy with different designs, similar characters, but same name potentially for some, and maybe some similar like characterizations, but it's a whole different setting. So what I'm saying is like an audience member being like, well, well, is it where, how come Robin's not in these new Batman films by Christopher Nolan? Like, aren't they a continuation from Batman '89? That's the kind of confusion I wonder of
Uh-huh.
like are I can't say simple minded because that is like truly I could go
Yeah,
into it and be all vile and
casual.
so on. Yeah, cat thank you, casual, like people who don't understand and don't look into it, and again they don't
Yeah.
have to, but like how do you differentiate between continuities? It's like I think they really need to do a whole like go back to the drawing board and start from scratch because like
Yeah. And by the way, I thought that Peter Cullen wasn't coming back, and it wasn't until I don't know a couple weeks ago I saw a trailer and I heard his voice, and I was just like, oh fuck, like come on. I know people love this guy. I'm not gonna knock him, but it's his time is done with these movies.
that's the thing. That's actually what made him a legend in the continuity, is because he was OG Optimus Prime, and then we had other characters voice him, or other actors voice him. So it's like now I want to see other people voice him, just for again, and especially for this case, just to differentiate the continuity.
Yeah, I think it would help a lot. Um, yeah, no, and definitely a complete redesign from the ground up. Even in the beginning of Bumblebee, I feel like they felt different than this. I think.
I'll give you a good example of this. So you have the game with you now, not with you now, yeah, but you have the game in your possession, the Transformers War for Cybertron video game, and then Netflix released a few years ago a series, or at least a series called Transformers War for Cybertron, but it's a completely separate continuity. Like and how they do this is that I still don't know who it was who came up with that idea in like Hasbro, why they called it War for Cybertron, because like there's already a property based off that. So I think whatever. I'm not in marketing, so but whatever. We're in charge of naming these things, but that had different the all the Autobots and Decepticons, all the Transformers look different than they did in that video game I'm telling you about.
Hmm.
As far as I'm aware, I only saw like 2 episodes of that series, but still, like they look different than that, and the way War for Cybertron, the video game, handles it is that whole world's very different as well, which is what I'd love to see the Transformers films look like, but oh well.
By the way, I did just go and watch the Bumblebee without any sound. Just put on the scene where Optimus Prime features in Bumblebee, and yeah, I really like the design that they used in that movie, and I wish that they would have continued with it, which is what I was expecting. It looks much more like the animated stuff. He's
Okay.
huge and blocky. They fill in all the spaces so you can't see all the inner workings the same way you do in this version and the Michael Bay version. I don't know why they changed it back to that. Ugh.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It was somebody's decision, so I I throw my hands up, man. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah, and do we feel like we come to the end here?
I guess I got my wish. I finally saw a Unicron on screen
Hey, that was in last
last
night,
night.
kind of.
Jinx.
Kind of.
Um, I wonder they would have done with 6. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I kind of maybe a comic series would be cool to see like what they would have done with 6, and they probably would have brought back Sam, because it's a comic, so you
Oh
could do that kind of
god.
stuff. But like, um, sure, I'm not asking for 86 live action. I'm not trying to at this point, but just like something on that scale, but like I guess written better. Like I would be cool to see, but at this point, it's like I'm just gonna go back to and watch 86 because like it's there, and I never need to see it in live action.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the experiment, I mean, these keep making money. Clearly they have their fans, Eric being
We
one of
gave it
them.
money.
Yeah. But
Eric.
our frequent host,
Yeah,
Eric.
Eric of the Novice Elitist.
Yeah.
He's of course him. He has his own like affiliates, but just like in this case, yeah, Eric of the
Yeah.
Novice Elitist, not of Geek Evolution.
Yeah, someone who's in a very different camp and clearly is a fan of these. I
The
just
opposite of Eric. Geek Evolution, excuse me.
yeah, these are something I don't understand. That this series, the appeal of it, I don't even begin to understand it with these movies. So I'll
Yeah,
continue watching them for the podcast, but oh boy, yeah, this is some of my least favorite movies around.
I guess I will say we will do a commentary over this. I don't know what the heck
Yeah,
I'm gonna like
yeah,
talk about. I don't. Again, I'm trying to give everybody like like this film the benefit of the doubt and come across as like an intermediary person, but that is not what I am
and
because I don't know what I'm gonna do in the moment.
yeah, hopefully say something because yeah, these other ones I feel like you've just like given up.
I was well last night. I did I was unprofessional. I was very like I was not in the right mindset for last night. So it's like this time I'm trying to make amends for that. But like I literally don't know what I'm going to talk about for um last night. So it really or sorry for Rise of the Beasts. Excuse me. It definitely going backwards. It's not making me look forward to. I think I will be coming at Bumblebee with my arms crossed, like really much so. Especially if Steinfeld wasn't involved in this one. So it's like
Well, trust me, Bumblebee's the only one in these live action films that doesn't feel like these do.
you're not helping me at all. Like you're not making a strong argument for it in my eyes.
Well, if you don't like what these movies are,
Well, okay.
that one at least promises to be something very different.
Does Bumblebee talk?
No, unfortunately, they don't. They once again don't have
Well,
him
I'm
talking.
sorry, sir, but you had one. Well, that movie had one at chance, and well,
Well, no, there's much more there to it.
is it ET but with Bumblebee?
Uh, I wouldn't say so. No.
Okay.
You'll see what it is when we get there.
Mm-hmm.
But what it isn't is it isn't generic and big and overstuffed, and it doesn't have a stupid artifact plot like all these other ones do. It's yeah, it's a much more. It feels more like a real movie and not just cardboard cutouts moving through a paper thin plot, which is what all these have. Except for again the last night, I do want to call out for that just to prove how much I'm not a fan of these movies compared to the people who love them or at least like them. Watching this movie in the shadow of last night just proves to me more and more why that movie is the one good one out of all these. Because that one at least had an interesting. It didn't have a generic plot that was stretched out. It had a much more complex plot and a much more interesting mythology. And I'm still surprised whenever I think about how much disdain and hate gets thrown at that compared to all these other ones. It's just. But again, that's why I'm just in a different world with the Transformer movies, including you. Yeah, you didn't like it either. So, but
Well, again, I'm a Transformers fan first, so like
yeah,
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't, that isn't fair to that film. And yeah, I'll admit I wasn't like looking on it now, like I was not a fan of that film, but I'll at least try to say like I think it was probably doing some good things. I know we just talked about it, but like
yeah.
for you as the movie fan, or not sorry, not movie fan, but just that you're the movie guy and you give you give every movie a chance. So it's like I again I'm trying to give this movie and Last Night a chance, but I'm as movies they didn't work for me. And that's me saying not as a Transformers fan, but like as like just a person who likes to watch movies. Like I would not reach for these again.
Oh yes, and again, and just in fear of in any way being overstated, I'm not reaching for any of these again. None of them I think are worth watching.
But in the realm of Transformers films by Michael Bay, and are associated with Michael Bay, because he has his fingerprints on Bumblebee as well, and this
Yeah.
one, just by being a producer. Excuse me. That's all I mean by, yeah. In that comparing them to each other, like yeah, I guess you're right. That like, I guess, well, you can say it, not me. I don't really know. I don't know. I don't want to repeat what you're saying.
Yeah, at least in terms of Michael Bay, I've only seen Bumblebee once. I'm curious to go back, although as you can tell, because I haven't booked it when we were gonna. I was planning initially to book it before we went to go see this, but I was like, I've got more than enough Transformers on my plate. I don't want to add any extra. so so I'll book it eventually, maybe 6 months down the line or something like that when
Whoa, okay, fair
I feel
enough.
like I can stomach it. Maybe sooner if you want.
I just want to get out of the way so we don't have to do it again.
Yeah, I guess that's fair, but
I know that's not fair to you, but you're in charge here. I'll let you decide because, yeah, I just want to get out of the way because I'm. Sounds so unprofessional of me to just be like, I just want to do it and get over with.
I guess I could wait until around when this hits a reasonable price for renting or at streaming, so then we can do them both back to back as the new series. I don't know. I get this is inside baseball. Yeah.
It is inside baseball. So I guess yeah. Final thoughts. I wouldn't recommend this film. I would not recommend this film to anybody. I would just say, as Caleb said, go watch Beast Wars. Like I know that has rudimentary CGI, but you have to understand context and understand. Immerse yourself with what CGI looked like in 1994
Yeah.
and or that whatever year was that show first came out. Understand that that was some of the best CGI on television. Not because obviously Toy Story looks still good. Um, so I would sooner say go watch pretty much any other like Transformers cartoon, even Prime.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a fan of that CGI, but like, yeah, go watch any of those other films instead, or those other uh, cartoons instead, or the animated series. Uh, I even say go watch '07 again. That's that's just my recommendation. That's not Caleb's recommendation, but I'm just like, why not?
Nope. Yeah, I hate that one too. Yeah, no, definitely go watch Beast Wars in the new 4K format. Don't watch it otherwise, because I did actually when I watched the first episode, I watched just a regular non-upscaled version, and I was like, oh wow, as much as I grew up in this area or this era, I know this CGI animation, but boy, it looked bad just watching it in standard def. But seeing it upscaled, you could see that there's more potential there. So definitely check out that copy if you can find it for free on YouTube. Easy to find.
He'll provide a link in the description.
Or you could just even type in just Beast Wars 4K and it'll be right there for you.
There you go.
But yeah, no, absolutely echo. Do not recommend. To steer clear unless you like Transformers stuff, and maybe you'll like it. I will spoil for when we eventually talk about with Eric. He started doing this thing on his Prognosis Negative feed where he'll do these short little just leaving the theater little recordings. He'll do like 10 minutes long, and he did one for this movie. And at the end, he said that he gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And he said for Transformers fans, it's worth seeing. For non-Transformers fans, it's probably a 3 or lower. I think it's, if I was gonna, no, I'm not gonna bother rating it, but I would say it's definitely, yeah, at the bottom of the barrel.
My rating is I'm not feeling it, and that's saying
Yes.
it as a movie fan and as a movie watcher and as a Transformers fan.
Yeah. But we're hopefully going to talk about something that we are feeling sometime soon. Hopefully we could use some good movies. So we'll see what we get to next time. And thank you, Isaac, for joining me for this discussion and for seeing the movie today. I would have been feeling much more tortured in the theater seeing it alone. So
Of course, I'm glad that we actually got to go see a movie again together. And
yeah,
this time I was the one that was acting like a complete child.
well, not like the children in front of us.
That's I think they at least like they got bored by that point, so it's like they didn't. There wasn't a point where they're just like, I gotta leave. Like this isn't for me. So it's like,
By the way, just to mention the kids, the kid in front of me during the big action scene near the end, he was standing up in his seat. He wasn't sitting anymore. He was just standing there, and he just kept just folding his seat up and down, up and down. He wasn't even looking at the cinema screen. He was just watching the seat as he was pushing it up and down. And I was just like, oh, this is This is making this horrible action scene more grating. But not to say that it was horrible, just boring, I should say. Boring action scene.
For all those who are going to take their dads to a Father's Day movie, or to see a movie on Father's Day or a Father's Day weekend this coming weekend, I'd suggest do Fast and the Furious, Fast X, rather than this one.
Yeah, or Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah, that exists. Right, I forgot about that.
And is getting immense praise. So yeah, I would say that's probably the one to go see. From what I'm hearing.
No comment.
Of course. But yeah, let's clear it up. Let's wrap this up. Any final summations from you, or
Till all are one in the television shows and the comics. Peace.